Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday. Today we are returning to the My Favorite LJN tournament, currently in round one, part 32. So, in the last video, I talked about hoping about getting in that mint on card Holy Grail item. Well, at the time of filming that video, no, I did not get that figure in, but because I kind of film my videos ahead of schedule a lot of time, I actually got that figure in probably the same day or within a couple days after filming that video. So yes, that figure is currently on hand. I'm probably gonna hold off on doing a video on that particular figure until I get a few more acquisitions. Because if I just do a simple one-off video, it's probably gonna be like a 3-minute video. So I want to try and incorporate that into more of a pickup video. Today, um, kind of, sad the last few days. You kind of think about death, man. They always say that death happens in threes, but I feel like lately there are a whole lot more death that's happening, and it's happening a lot more than just sets of threes. Recently, James Earl Jones, he recently passed. I forget the actors' names, but the father from Coming to America, he recently passed. The the actress from Harry Potter, I just had her name at the top of my head, and now I just kind of forgot it. But she recently died. Frank Fritz from American Pickers TV show, freaking awesome, dude. I love watching that guy on American Pickers for years. Definitely my favorite character. Him and Mike Wolf together had that friendship since childhood. That was depressing to hear. Man was 59, 60 years old, and he was still a relatively young man. So hearing of his passing was demoralizing. Baseball wise, baseball legend Pete Rose. As a Cubs fan in, I want to say early 2000s, when Ron Santo died, and then the Baseball Writers of America, or the Veterans Committee, that's what it was. The Veterans Committee, right after Ron Santo died, voted him into the Hall of Fame. And at that point, it was a slap in the face. I'm like, dude, the man's gone. He's not even going to realize that he was a Hall of Famer. You had all these years that the man was alive that they could have voted him into the Hall of Fame, and they failed to do so. I kind of feel like they're going to do the same thing to Pete Rose. The man spent like 30 years trying to clear his name, and yes, he's openly admitted he bet on baseball, but he bet on his own team. I mean, is it the worst thing in the world? There are certain people that absolutely deserve Hall of Fame consideration. Barry Bonds should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, first ballot Hall of Famers. I don't give a darn about about this whole steroid crap, okay? Steroids does not make you hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming at your head. Roger Clemens, what did he have? Like 7 freaking Cy Young awards. There's probably no greater pitcher in the world outside of Nolan Ryan. No, and then so Pete Rose, over 4,200 career hits, and you're gonna ban him from baseball for life. And now at 83 years old, he's gone. And I kind of feel like the same thing's going to happen to him. That's going to happen to Ron Santo. And Ron Santo, nothing in his career kept him out of the Hall of Fame outside of his numbers just simply weren't to the equivalent of someone like a Mike Schmidt, for example, as a third baseman. His numbers were borderline, but I feel like they're going to finally induct Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame posthumously, and it's a waste. At this point, it's like why even bother? So we're coming across all these recent deaths, and it sucks. I think Willie Mays earlier this season died, if I'm not mistaken. So legend after legend, man, just keeps going, and it's sad. But I just kind of wanted to give special recognition to some of these folks out there. You know, their storied careers and whatnot. To some of the actors, to some of these TV personalities like Frank Fritz, to these baseball legends like Pete Rose, what have you. So today's video, guys, again, as I said, we are returning to the My Favorite LJN tournament, and we are on part 32. Oh, last custom video. I picked up a few more new subscribers. To those new viewers, new subscribers, I just want to say welcome to the channel. Hopefully you guys do get a kick out of this tournament. If you haven't already been watching, all of these videos can be found in the Year 3 My Favorite LJN Tournament folder. And pretty much every video that I make mostly has its own folder usually. So you can pretty much go back and watch abundance of pretty much everything. So, alright, so today let's go ahead and get names drawn for today's matchups, shall we? Alright, and don't you know that I just did a review on this figure-ish just a couple videos ago, and I've already got his name drawn for this video. Just added it to the cup, or to the bowl. Randy Savage from Robert Jackson. He will square off against Mark Hackenberg's Terry Funk. Next matchup is going to feature One Man Gang. And he is going to do battle against Andre Series 6. That is a good one. Tough one, but it's a good one. Alright, so next battle, we're going to see Bobby Heenan from Robert Jackson. And he is going to square off against Butch. And that is Butch of the Bushwhackers. Should have probably been specific, not Butch Reed. But last matchup is going to feature Corporal Kirchner Pink, as he does battle against Afa. Alright, names have been drawn. I will pull figures and we'll be back in a split second. Alright, folks. Figures have been drawn. And we've got some good matchups here. First one we are going to look at is going to feature Rob Jackson's Macho Man, as he squares off against Mark Hackenberg's Terry Funk. And we'll look at Terry Funk first. So, Terry Funk, probably one of the easier customs that Mark has put together. And really, not really any change to the figure, not really, outside of adding on this little potato sack, as I like to call it. But everything else is relatively identical. And I'm trying to think if there was something special about this look. Because Mark, he always associates specific looks with his figure to a certain main event, like a WrestleMania 3, or like the 3 Don Muraccos I've talked about in the past. The different color t-shirts were specific to certain matches, certain main events, pay-per-views, etc. So, I mean, compared to the original Terry Funk, I mean, it's just one additional accessory. It is one additional aesthetic. So, yeah, it's nice. But, again, it's not a removable, I don't think. Not unless you want to sit there and kind of, like, tear at the shirt. And we're not going to do that. But I think he had sewn this on there. So, I think that's really freaking cool. Could be wrong, because I'm just trying to see how he has it connected. Or maybe, nope, it's Velcro, so it is removable. It's got Velcro on it. Terry Funk. Didn't watch Terry Funk to the best of my knowledge growing up. Didn't really know anything about him. Old Charlie Boy with the chainsaw in the late 90s. I thought that was pretty cool. But again, I wasn't watching wrestling not really during that time period. Didn't really know too lot about him as well. When I started collecting LJNs, I've always said you try to learn about these characters as much as you can, but Terry Funk was a huge fan favorite, and the figure was beloved by so many people of the 80s, so many kids of the 80s, but it was a very simple figure for me and not one of my most enjoyable figures. And because the arm was always like so far back there, it bothered me, and I didn't enjoy the figure. It was decent enough, kind of like I talked about, like the Bob Orton figure. The look aesthetically was fine, but the pose was kind of out there. It wasn't until I got the final accessory. Yeah, I had the hat when I bought from Eric. I bought the original figure plus the hat, but I didn't have the branding iron, right? But once you add the branding iron, it made a world of difference. It took it from like being like a number 60 figure, in my opinion, to being like a number 30 figure. Accessory. So, is it one of the more playable figures? Absolutely. Color-wise, decent aesthetic look to it. I just don't have a lot of history or a lot of knowledge of Terry Funk, so I don't have like matchups and feuds and things like that I can really match up with, right? But the Funk name, it is a very popular family name, like the Harts and the Von Erichs and the Rhodes, etc. So the second we heard about this matchup, yeah, it was pretty much a wash. I said in my last video where I kind of brought this figure up and we reviewed the figure that I said that this was a legitimate potential candidate to win this tournament, and that is not something where you're blowing smoke. Absolutely 100% agree that this is a fantastic figure with the credentials to win. Now, unlike someone like Bruiser Brody, who I didn't grow up watching, he might be my two-time incumbent champion, but he does not have the sort of name recognition in my childhood or in my memories that someone like a Macho Man has. So that is a huge bonus for someone like a Macho Man, right? And the aesthetics of the figure is absolutely incredible. The one thing original Series 3 Macho Man LJN does not have is a solid playable action figure. And all of the customs I have are based on that Series 3 play pose, right? And it's not exactly an enjoyable pose. Some of the color schemes and the accessories put those figures over the top and make them amazing. But realistically, do any of those have a shot of winning the tournament? They probably don't. They could probably make it third round, fourth round, maybe even fifth round, but depending on who their opponent is in a particular round. But chances of actually winning the tournament, highly unlikely. The original Series 3 Macho Man, definitely. It's a very plain, simple figure. It would be nice to have two, like Hulk Hogan type of deal, right? So like this, where you have two playable fighting arms, or playable fists, or playable arms. But I've always said, as long as one arm was playable, you can make do with the other arms. That's why someone like Corporal Kirchner, where his may not have the best arm positioning ever, and with the left arm out like so, left arm, okay, DDT, bam, you're good. At least your right arm, you got that punch, right? You can do something with the figure. Now, obviously, Robert Jackson isn't the original guy who created this. When I sent the figure to him, it was this figure, and it was the person I bought it from didn't have it. It wasn't finished. It was a pink, or it was a purple and white figure in the pants. I don't know if I have a good example, but think Ultimate Warrior match. And right after Ultimate Warrior defeated him, obviously Cher Martel's in the ring afterwards, and she is pissed, calling him a loser, whooping on him while he's down and out on the ground beaten. And this is the events that had led to Elizabeth shooting down the aisle to come into the ring to save Randy Savage from Cher Martel's butt whooping, basically. So we showed off the July 1990 magazine, and that was the inspiration for Rob's take on the new design of the pants. And I'm wondering if I saw this on one of the Grappler's gimmicks. I don't think so. Now, this when I saw this was completely fresh and different. I don't think I've ever seen this before. But one of the things that really fascinate me, and there are probably 2 different Jake Robert Hasbro figures that I got from Rob that were customized, and he uses something very similar to like this gray or kind of like a dark green, and they kind of look like scales, like the scales of a snake, right? And for the Jake Roberts figures, they look absolutely spectacular. And what he does with the Macho Man figure, I mean, they're not really scaly, but the overall flow and design is absolutely outrageous. That right there has got to be my favorite part. Well, maybe second favorite part, because I still enjoy the playability of this figure. He may not have an accessory, and that hurts him. But name recognition is a huge deal. And I know I said it in my very first tournament. What the character meant to you should not play any role whatsoever. But by the time I came around and did my second tournament, absolutely, I abandoned that mindset, because, of course, what they meant to you as a kid is going to play a huge role, and it should. Now, it should not be your priority, but it should be at least a terminating factor. And yes, with the right competition, I think he could go 5 rounds in this tournament. Does he make it to the semifinals, or is he... I think because of the quantity, I think there's going to be a 3-man finals. Can he be one of the last 3 standing? I would argue yes. Is it going to happen? I don't know. That's the fun part of a tournament like this, is finding out. And so for this one, no doubt about it, Macho Man defeats Terry Funk. And I don't think there's any variant of Terry Funk, original or any custom figure, that would ever beat this particular Macho Man in this particular matchup. Next matchup we said was One Man Gang, as he squares off against original Series 6 Andre the Giant. So we will start with Andre. So the thing about Andre, and I said with this original figure, right, from Eric, Wrestling Writer, we had, and from Robert Jackson as well, we had a couple of Series 2 blue short-haired Andre the Giant figures that were customized to look like a Series 6 blackstrap Andre. Now, based on their competition earlier in this tournament, they would have easily defeated their competition. But 2 things. Number 1, I really enjoyed the figures that they were squaring off against, and felt like those figures deserved to be moved on to another round, get another opportunity to get another look. And 2, and this was the biggest thing, I knew realistically that if those blackstrap Andre customs went up against the original, an original figure would not lose to a custom, even though they were painted to look exactly the same. Because it's original. Plain and simple. So, Andre the Giant, this is my Andre. This is the Andre I can remember from childhood. And kind of go back, one of the things I've started to appreciate about Facebook, and I've never used Facebook before, right? And over the last several months, I get on there and I look at like videos, or I look at memes and stuff like that. If I'm bored, I'm sitting on a couch and my wife has something on a TV that I'm not interested in, and I got nothing to read, like Cubs.com or anything like that, I'll go on Facebook, see what's happening on there, what funny stories, funny memes, funny pictures I can see. And I've been coming across a lot of videos about late 70s, early 80s Andre the Giant. And just seeing how many different people have actually body slammed Andre. I don't know why. Like as a kid, especially, and even as an adult, you always kind of feel like 87, WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre was like a legendary, historic moment. Like you will never see this type of event happen ever again. That nobody could ever body slam Andre. And that's so untrue because Hulk Hogan himself has body slammed Andre multiple times. Okay, Ultimate Warrior has body slammed Andre the Giant multiple times. Kamala has body slammed Andre the Giant. Freaking Harley Race, who doesn't even look like he's a bodybuilder or extra strong, and he looks like he's 60. Even as a younger guy, he looks super old. Has body slammed Andre the Giant. Now I get it. At 500 some pounds, I mean you're not trying to lift him up from a deadlift, right? You think Lex Luger picked up Yokozuna from a deadlift and body slammed him? No. Of course, Yokozuna had to jump up and allow Lex Luger to body slam him. Yes, Andre the Giant is jumping up a little bit to help the guys lift him up, but still, it's still a body slam nonetheless, right? You're not picking him up and then falling straight down, having him fall right on top of him. So you got to have some kind of muscles and whatnot, some kind of physical strength. And of course, you see all these other guys, 2-man, 3-man, where they got this double lift, where they got a tag team to kind of lift him up and slam him. But when I talk about Andre the Giant figures, and I say Blackstrap, my 3A favorite LJN figure, Series 2, 3B, and Series 1, 3C. But when I write out my list of top 10, I put Series 1 Andre at number 3. I don't include Series 2 or Series 6. Even though Series 2 and Series 6 are the same. And the reason I do that is because I've said it before, it kind of eliminates 2 figures out of your top 10 if I do that. Because you're basically saying Andre 3, Andre 4, Andre 5. And so, let's say Warlord and SD Jones is your number 9, number 10 favorite figures. Now they suddenly fall to 11 and 12 because you got 3 Andres in the top 10. So I generally don't include a Series 2 or Series 6 Andre in that listing. Or I put them as A, B, and C under 3. But great figure. The one I look forward. And I always say 3. I always look for Series 1 because among the 3, yes, it's the least expensive. You're not gonna, if you got all 3 figures, you're not gonna sit there and wrestle a $400 or $500 figure. Okay, the Series 2 Andre, $50 figure, $75 figure, $100 figure, depending on condition, who's selling it on auction, buy it now, whatever. Who's actively buying at what time? Yeah, so you're probably gonna use that Series 1 figure that's basically a $15 to $35 figure based on condition, right? So this is a spare. This isn't even my main displayed one-man gang. And look at this. This is a near mint figure. This is freaking awesome. I have no idea who I got this from, but I gotta look at my main figure and then compare it to this one and see which one is better, because this one, like I said, very minor black spots on this figure. One Man Gang with the right pose would be an absolute perfect figure. Top 10 in my opinion. But when you look at Macho Man, when you even look at freaking what's his name? Shoot, drawing a blank. Paul Orndorff. Oh God. That's embarrassing. When you look at Paul Orndorff-ish, when you look at Ken Patera, One Man Gang, when these guys that have arms like so or like so, they're unplayable. It's basically King Kong Bundy and George Steele in reverse. Instead of this, you're this. And he's got a freaking awesome look. One Man Gang. How cool of a freaking name is that? probably one of the coolest freaking names in wrestling history. Great size, great thickness, great grip of the figure. Fantastic. But his play pose is just unenjoyable. I've never had this is my duplicate, but I've never had, obviously, years ago when I was doing the matches, I didn't have a spare, so I was never using one man gang for my matches when I was trying to get that feel for the figures, right? But kind of holding it, you kind of get the idea of of its playability. And yeah, one man gang, I mean, if he were going against a probably good 45-50% of the figures in this tournament, more even, he would be moving on to round 2. I think his custom has already moved on to round 2, but you're going up against one of the most elite premier figures of LJN, so he obviously is not going to win this matchup. Yes, Andre the Giant Series 6 moves on to round 2. Akeem. I knew of Akeem in all blue. Obviously, I knew of this Akeem, right? Like, if you asked me prior to LJN collecting who was One Man Gang, I don't know. I never heard that name before. But if you like who's Akeem, I'm like, oh yeah, I know Akeem. Like, and then you kind of see this matchup. Oh my god, this freaking matchup! I kept seeing on Facebook, and it's like a quick 30-second video between Akeem and Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty Rhodes, he's giving him the elbow, and Akeem is doing this weird freaking dance, and then Dusty Rhodes starts mimicking. I swear to God, that's like the funniest freaking thing you'll ever see in wrestling. If I knew I wasn't gonna get, like, not sued, but if I was to get copyright or something, I would have that as like my opening segment every freaking video, because that crap is hilarious. Freaking Dusty Rhodes, man. I forget his real name, but Akeem, One Man Gang, the real life wrestler. He's like, in one of his videos, man, I can't dance worth the damn. And they want to dress me up as this African prince or something, and like, can you dance? I'm like, no, not really. So he's just trying to wing it while he's on the ring. Oh, God. That poor guy. Next battle is going to feature Butch as he does battle against Robert Jackson's Bobby Heenan. So, among Bobby Heenan figures, this is probably one of my top 3 favorites. Maybe top 4, I don't know. I really like the original Bobby Heenan in blue and black. So, it's one of the very few times where I can look at an original figure and say that original compared to customs, that I have preference over of the original figure. Sometimes, not always. Obviously, the Bobby Heenan Elf. The Bobby Heenan Elf was the winner of my favorite manager tournament, so that figure obviously holds a lot of merit for me. The black Bobby Heenan, where he's like this, I think that one is incredible. And I've always said that up until those 2 figures, this was probably my favorite Bobby Heenan figure. Mostly because I like the fact that he kind of got rid of the shirt, kind of made him bare chest up here, right? And gave him a brand new color scheme. And with the shirt and the sweater, looks fantastic. Bobby Heenan, despised him as a manager, loved him on the mic. I think him and Gorilla Monsoon, the way they went back and forth, their banner was absolutely insane. I think I'd always gravitate towards, let's say, Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler, but you can't deny that what Gorilla Monsoon and what Bobby Heenan had together was special. And, maybe someone like Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon, for example, they pretty much had a good rapport as well. But growing up in the 90s baseball, like Chip Carey and Steve Stone for the Cubs, calling baseball games. That was my favorite commentating duel. Now you listen to Cubs games over the years, and you might say, okay, for those who watch Cubs games in the 2000s and 2000 teens, early 2020s, you might say, oh man, I absolutely love Len Casper and everything. I'm like, that might be fine. But for me, Chip Carey and Steve Stone were my ideal duel. And Len Casper, I don't know who the heck was it. Dan Deshay or something Deshay? I want to say Dan Deshay. I think that's who the other guy was. But I don't know if they. I know Len Casper's gone. I don't know if the Deshay guy is still there. Obviously, being in Texas and then Kentucky over the last 20 years, haven't really been able to follow Cubs baseball. And when I have been able to watch them, it's been on like ESPN and stuff. So you're listening to ESPN commentators. You're not listening to actual Cubs broadcasters. So you're hearing the stuff through like grapevine of who the new commentators are. Or occasionally, once in a blue moon, you might see a Cubs commentator. Or when you're watching like MLB.com on like YouTube and you're watching like recap games or something. But anyways, back to the figures. I forget how I went off on it. Oh yeah. I was talking about commentator tag team duels. I talk about going off on these tangents and I always forget how I get there, but luckily I was able to kind of remember that one. Another figure from Rare Treasures, and we did look at Luke, and I said Luke was kind of the light brown hair, where this is more dark brown hair. And this is another one of those figures where you got paint chipping from his hair. Like, how? Like, when it sits on the shelf is like that much higher than his head. Like, how does he... It's not like he's scraping against the top or anything, right? So it's so freaking weird. On all these figures. And it's got good rubber. It's not the best rubber. It's not like the thick Dino Bravo rubber, but it's good rubber. So that's not an issue. And it doesn't appear to be coming off on like the shirt or the boots or anything. It's just the hair. So pretty much the same thing that I've said about Luke, I could pretty much say about Butch. I mean, they're just mirrors of each other. So I've said before, I don't like mirror figures. And the pose, when they come down the aisle, yeah, that it makes sense. And you could always say, well, you know what? One arm up, maybe you could drop an elbow, whereas the other arm, it at least has one playable thing where you can sit there and throw punches, maybe whip them across the rope and do a clothesline or something. So it's not bad. If someone convinces me one day to sit down and film like an actual Royal Rumble, and I feel comfortable actually doing commentary on that, and I don't feel absolutely humiliated to actually make said video, yeah, I would love to incorporate the Bushwhackers into that Royal Rumble. And I think I wouldn't just choose regular original LJN figures. I would probably incorporate my favorite pieces. So, like, if I chose Paul Orndorff, I wouldn't choose original Paul Orndorff. I would choose Paul Orndorff with the Hulk Hogan body as an example. So, some of the more enjoyable figures for me. As a playable wrestling action figure, Bobby Heenan has that. I mean, it's a great color scheme. It's just tough. This really is a neck and neck battle. I think design wise, the Bushwhackers with the cargo pants and the camouflage, it's really done really well. And with the cargo pockets, the way they shoot out, this is one of the best well-designed, well-painted figures. I think if I went with Bobby Heenan, I'd be going with Bobby Heenan over Pose. Now, color scheme-wise, they both have very similar looks. Again, gray and black for the most part. I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with Butch, man. I think Butch is deserving. Or look at Bobby Heenan. I already know no Bobby Heenan figure is gonna beat their Elf variant, and in that regard, I think that helps me make my decisions a lot of times. Like, hey, will this variant defeat any of their other versions that are in this tournament? If the answer is no, it allows me to move forward another figure, and by pushing Butch forward, that allows both Bushwhackers to enter round two. So I think that is huge. Now, do the Bushwhackers make it out of round two? I don't know. But I think they're great figures, and I think they have the potential to be round three, round four figures. So we'll see what happens. So Butch does defeat Bobby Heenan. My last matchup is an interesting one because from the Wild Samoans, we've got Alpha as he takes on what I classify as Pink Corporal Kirchner. And we'll start with Alpha. And it's the only way I'm able to decipher the difference between Alpha and Sika. I say Alpha, right arm out, Sika, left arm out. So when you're looking at them on the shelf like so, and they're side by side, that's how it makes it. It just, one straight line like bam, and it kind of caterpillars over to the side, to the other side. So now if I were to sit there and kind of mix them up, yeah, that might confuse me one day, but that's what I talk about. When you get guys like Bad News Brown and the Wild Samoans, etc., you kind of have to throw in. Generally, I put white belts on these guys because of the black outfits, but no, sometimes I'll throw red belts just because it's something different, and I'll change up the plates. So, like, I think this was bronze plates, if I'm not mistaken, and I think this was copper plates. So, for Random Treasures, I get every single belt color, but I also get every single plate color in reference to all the different belt colors. So, you get a bunch of different variants, so it's really nice. When I first saw the Wild Samoans, I wasn't overly impressed. Mostly, one, because I didn't really grow up watching them. I kind of remembered these guys. I think it was Alpha, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it was Sika. And I could have them backwards. I don't ever really remember. But I remember the head shrinkers. And what always stood out to me was, and I'm going to say Alpha because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to say Alpha. So Alpha as manager, he would grab the head shrinkers by the back of the head, and during Royal Rumbles or whatever, he'd walk them down the aisle, and once they got to the ring, he would back of the head, he would take them and just toss them into the ring. I'm like, man, why are you abusing your own wrestler before he even gets into the matchup? But the whole thing about the head shrinkers with Samu and Fatu were like, heads of steel, essentially. You try headbutting them, and you basically knock yourself out. So it kind of fit the mold, and they're all part of the same family and whatnot. So I always butcher the name, so I always try to pronounce it the best I can. The Noe family, if I say it correctly. So when I first got the figures, I mean they because they were mirrored, that sucked. They were obviously pricey. Tag teams are always more expensive. Obviously about $80 more. About $40 more per figure, as if it were compared to just a single figure. So essentially, you'd be paying, let's say, for one figure $180, whereas you'd be paying like $130. Well, actually $50, $130 for a single figure if it was, let's say, this, for example. So that kind of bothered me, but I think she started lowering the prices on some of the tag teams recently, so I think that helps financially. Over time, I've come to appreciate the figures a whole lot more. Why? Well, why shouldn't I appreciate them? They have exactly what I'm looking for. The pose might not be the greatest, but it's okay. It's not bad. They're definitely playable figures. Grip. Beautiful, perfect grip to the figures. Grip is fantastic. Big, bulky figures. Good weight to them. How could I not love the figures? Insane. And again, it's plain figures, basically another Ricky Steamboat type of deal with just simple look with all black essentially, right? But the head modes, always looking at these guys like Machete. I mean, look at the face. They do look like Danny freaking Trejo. And Danny Trejo, man, is one of the most underrated freaking actors. The man's in like 10,000 different movies and TV shows. And up until Machete, I mean, you never really got the opportunity to see him lead his own show or lead his own movie. So that was freaking awesome that at like age 70 or close to it, he finally got the opportunity to be the lead actor. So this is going to be a really tough one because even though I don't know anything about this particular look, right? The person I bought this figure from, I just really like the difference in paint scheme. He did a good job filling in the dog tags. Plain white shirt. I mean, there is no such thing as a white beret, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, as if there's any like foreign countries with white berets, I don't know, military wise, and I'm not talking about Navy hats or whatnot, but yeah, I'm not sure what the hell the Navy hats are called, but that we're talking about actual berets. He filled in the flash. Okay, that's nice. Little flash up here. But I would have gone with either a maroon beret for like airborne or air assault or something, right? Or obviously green beret for special forces. Even black beret, because black beret is for any soldier. Every soldier has a black beret, but because the black beret with the jet black hair, I think would clash. That's why I think something like a green beret or possibly the maroon beret would be best option. And maroon beret with these colored pants would really look really good. But the seller I bought it from, I just really like the look of the pants. So, and it wasn't like a crazy expensive figure either. And they did a pretty decent job at filling in the beard and whatnot. So normally I look at these figures and I'm like, yeah, I mean, obviously it's been painted, but what if this was original bearded Corporal Kirchner and someone just filled in the beard more? Yes, it's going to lose some value, but it should still hold more value even being filled in than what it would if it wasn't. I didn't say that the right way, but hopefully you guys understood what I was trying to say. I always gravitate towards the military figures because I mean I was Army myself, so yes, the Sergeant Slaughter figures, the Corporal Kirchner figures, yeah, they kind of mean something to me. I do like the play pose of the Corporal Kirchner more. I mean the overall look with the beard and the color of the pants, they mean a lot. Kind of talking about AFA, before I even got the opportunity to look at Corporal Kirchner, I really was leaning towards Alpha. I really thought that I was going to choose this figure, but now I'm kind of torn. Now I'm going back and forth. Now I'm not sure. Mm. So I gotta look ahead. Of all the figures that are in round two, which of these figures give you the best opportunity to win in round two to make it to round three? Does this figure defeat any of the other customs that if he squares off against any of his customs in round two, round three, does he move on to the next round? I really like the pants, man. I really do. I think that is such an awesome and unique look. Probably one of my favorite designs thus far. And even though the beard isn't painted to look like an original Kirchner, it's just painted to look like a real beard, right? My heart says Corporal Kirchner, but my mind says that AFA might give you a better opportunity for further advancement. And I'm not just saying second round and done. I'm saying that based on the figures here, he could potentially have the best opportunity to move on to round 3. If he beats Corporal Kirchner here, does that mean he could potentially beat another Corporal Kirchner in round 3 or in round 2 to move on to round 3? It's possible. Whereas this one could potentially lose to said Corporal Kirchner Custom in the next round. So that kind of helps make my decision again, but it's tough. So once again, guys, this is round 1, part 32. And just confirming in my notebook, yep, part 32. So I estimate that there's approximately 8 videos remaining. So at this stage, we're about 80% through the first round. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care, everybody.